Okie dokie. Hello, everyone. I hope you're doing very, very well. It is Friday, just past 2 p.m. here where I am in the world, in Calgary, in Canada. Welcome to episode number 40, if I'm not mistaken, 40 of Azren's Journal. For those of you who have never seen this segment before on my channel, it's pretty straightforward. This is a segment on my YouTube channel where I talk about my personal, that kind of hurt, my personal language learning journey. And of course, in this segment, I give you guys a whole bunch of different language learning tips. So in today's video, I want to talk about a weird concept that occurred to me about fluency being fluency actually happening, quote unquote, by accident, a random thought process that occurred to me, and some different personal life updates. And yeah, that'll basically be the video for today. So let's start with the language learning stuff. Let's start there. I was thinking today that in many ways, fluency kind of happens, quote unquote, by accident. Now, I want to clarify the statement. I want to be very, very specific with it. I'm not saying that you go to learn a language and somehow, without you even trying, with no effort, you suddenly ended up at a very fluent level. I think that is not really the case. That's not true for everyone, if not, well, at least I can say for the majority, that is probably not the case. So let's just start there and let's make that very, very clear right from the get-go. However, I will say this, what often will happen by accident is figuring out what kinds of strategies and what kinds of pathways and what kinds of techniques are going to work for you versus what isn't going to work. That kind of stuff actually does happen in many ways by accident, in my experience. So it's funny, let's look at myself as a starting point, right? I speak English, I speak French, I speak Spanish, I speak Mandarin, and I speak Gujarati. These are 5 languages that I speak. When we look specifically, let's say at French, Spanish, and Mandarin, seeing as those are 3 languages that I didn't grow up with from birth, you know, there's a lot of different things and a lot of different strategies and things that I've done that have worked extremely well that I literally had no idea would work extremely well. That I literally just tried to do something and it worked like magic. And I was like, oh, wow, that's amazing. I didn't know that would work. So a great example would be, I don't know, there's so many, there's hundreds of examples of this. Like, let's look at the French R, okay? Pronouncing the letter R in French. French R's are very different than R's in English. And I used to struggle tremendously with R's in French. I thought they're really, really difficult and I used to mispronounce them all the time. The strategy that I followed to learn an R was not necessarily the strategy that other people follow. It's a random strategy that was invented by a 15-year-old friend of mine. I was 15 at the time. Like, he's a friend of mine, and he's like, all right, I think you should start with the word crois, like je crois. I think that's a logical word to start with. Then you should learn the word trois, number 3. Then you should learn, he gave me like a list of words. He like really line out different, I should learn 1 word at a time. And then I would like have specific goals in a day to say those words. That strategy worked really well, and I suddenly was able to go and, you know, not suddenly, but after a lot of work and practice, that strategy worked, and I was able to pronounce those sounds. From a teaching perspective, right? Often I will just try things, and I'm baffled at how well or how effective the strategy is. Like, one day I was like, man, people need to get audio homework. I'm gonna give a homework, and I wasn't even like really thinking about it. It was like a random thing I did. I was like, I think people should send me voice messages as part of their homework. They send me a voice message on Instagram or WhatsApp or some platform. I listen to it. I then reply, and then we're having like a conversation throughout the week. That seems like a good idea. And now that is such a big staple and something I strongly believe in when it comes to learning languages. I believe that strategy works really well, and it can really help you tremendously. So probably to clarify this title, does fluency happen by accident? No, I think the answer is no, actually. But finding the right strategies, finding stuff that works, finding stuff that doesn't work, finding programs that work, finding, a lot of the strategic side, absolutely, I think has a lot of randomness behind it. I actually think in many ways, a potentially good way to approach language learning, and many things in life, by the way, now that I'm pondering this on the spot, is you make an educated best guess. Be like, I think X strategy is going to work. I think this is a good idea because of blah, 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 blah reasons. I think it's a good idea. Go pursue that strategy. But at the same time, go test a bunch of things. Instead of overthinking it before you start, to really overthink it and really ponder, how do I want to approach this? Instead of doing that, think about it a little bit, put some thought into it, put an adequate amount of thought into it, and then go try different things and watch the results of those different things you tried. Once you see the results, you're going to be like, oh, that worked really well. Let me double down on that kind of strategy. In my own personal language learning experience, I remember I was forced to go to France for 3 months. I was 15. I didn't want to go to France. I was forced. I wanted to stay in Calgary. My mom forced me to go. She's like, you must. Thankfully, she did. It was a great experience. It was a very foundational experience. I talk about it a lot nowadays. Thankfully, she forced me. Now, when I came back from France, when I came back from France, I, after the 3 months, had a very high level in French. I went from being, let's call it functional, let's call it reasonably strong in French. Like, I wasn't the worst, but I wasn't great, right? I went from that kind of level to being like what I considered at the time near native. I was like, oh my God, like I remember thinking, like, there's nothing I don't know how to say in French. Like, wow, I sound like a French guy. No one's gonna, like, I thought I was like the best. Now, it was a slightly naive opinion. Looking back, there was lots of stuff I didn't know and everything, but at the time I was a very, very strong kind of level. Seeing Cole in the chat, maybe maybe a B1 all the way up, maybe like a B1 to a higher B2. Like, I passed a B2 test with reasonable ease, like coming back after I came back from France. So maybe a B1 to B2. Like, I wish I had a better memory. It was like 12 years ago, but it was a big improvement. Now, I was like, oh my God, traveling abroad is the best strategy. That's the way to learn. I traveled abroad for Spanish. It worked. Not at the same level. And I was like, oh, interesting. Maybe I need to do more traveling abroad. I did more traveling abroad. And then I started to realize, oh, it's not just traveling abroad. You need specific circumstances. But I learned that you need a good set of circumstances that create an environment that is conducive for your learning. But I didn't figure that out by research or by thinking about it. I figured that out by living through it and going through it and testing it and going 100%, putting all my chips down on a hypothesis or a belief that I had, and based on the results, reevaluating to be like, oh, maybe I wasn't actually right. I think that's a very effective way to approach different language learning. And in fact, I want to go more into life topics. This is my journal. I actually saw a very interesting comment the other day, which is like, it's your journal, and yet everything is just about tips and advice and stuff. And I was like, that's a very good point. Let's get a little bit of journalistic tendencies into this journal. In many ways, I think that is an effective way to view like life. Like, in general, that's something I try to do. Like, let's look at my work life right now. I'll even show it to you on my phone. Let's make sure there's no like phone numbers or stuff that are like on here that are private. Let's just like clear all the notifications. There we go. Right. So right now, check this out. Let's go to my profile. This is an app called TikTok. I have been watching this app for a long time. It has been going up and up and up in popularity on the iTunes popularity charts. I've decided, okay, I think it's I need to go all in on TikTok, and I'm going to make a ton of videos. I made 4 videos today. I made 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5 videos a day before, 8 videos a day. Like I'm going all in because I have a funny theory on this app that if I go and I make a lot of videos, the hashtags over index and it's really easy to get your content featured, which means a bigger audience for me, which means more students in the long term, which means more options for sponsorship, blah, 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 blah. I might be wrong, but I'm going to do it and then I'll know if I was wrong, right? I try not to overthink it on the front end. I actually think it's a very good way to approach life in general. What's up, Matthew? I see you in the chat. Hi, I'm your subscriber. I assume you're from Russia or Ukraine, something like that, by the way you type. Hi, I'm your subscriber for a long time. I'm working as an Android developer in St. Petersburg. Oh yeah, St. Petersburg, there we go. Thank you for your efforts. Well, thank you for watching, Matthew. I appreciate the comment. I really, really appreciate that tremendously. If you have any questions, type them in the chat. We're here. I can answer them for you. Other random journal-related stuff, personal life updates, language updates, things like that. Right now, I've been... oh, this is a good update to share. This is something that can be really useful for you guys too. It's a personal update that can also be very useful. I think this can go both ways. So I've shared this many times, but ever since 2016, probably about May of 2016, so it's been a little bit more than 3 years now, I've been pretty focused on becoming a healthier person. So at the time, back in 2016, prior to that, during my adult life, as a child, a little different, but adult life for sure, I ate all the wrong foods. I didn't sleep enough. I worked in a high stress environment. I didn't drink enough water. I ate no fruits, very few fruits, very few vegetables, lots of sugary or like carbohydrate filled foods. Like it was just not a good diet. I was not exercising whatsoever, no exercise. I was, doing everything wrong health-wise, except for perhaps I wasn't doing drugs or I wasn't drinking alcohol or like going things like that. Apart from substance abuse, I was doing everything wrong. I decided in 2016 that's not a good idea anymore and I had to make a change. So ever since then, I've slowly but surely been chipping away and trying to be healthier and healthier. Nowadays, my diet is way better. I'm sleeping consistently 7.5 to 8 hours a night, 8 hours a night. And the physical activity was really hard for me. I don't know if you guys can relate to this, but am I going bald? I might be going bald soon. Interesting. I might be losing my hair. So yes, physical activity and exercise was a very challenging thing to incorporate and continues to be in a certain way. I just couldn't do it. It was very difficult to build a habit to exercise and all of that stuff. It wasn't until, I would say, May of this year where finally something clicked and I found a good strategy, which I actually want to share with you guys, which can work for, I think, many different habits you're trying to change. I think can also work for language learning as I'm pondering it and considering it now. I was traveling in May. I had no vehicle. Therefore, I had to get around and I had to transport myself. What a strange thing to say. I had to get around by walking, by biking, or by train. Those are my 3 options. So I walked and biked and trained everywhere a lot. That's all I did every day. In Taiwan and France as well, I might have walked 5 kilometers a day. I might have done minimally, just 5 kilometers a day of just being out and about. Now, I did that from end of April, early May, all the way to middle of June. When I came back to Calgary, it was so weird. I had done it so much for such a consistent period of time that when I came back to Calgary, it felt strange to have a sedentary lifestyle. It felt so weird. I remember I was sitting so much. I was like, this is so weird. I can't do this. This is not, it feels bizarre. And so ever since then, even in Canada, when I've been back, I've done 5 to 7 days of exercise, consistently a week, consistently. Push up, a lot of body weight stuff at home, push ups, sit ups, jumping jacks, walks, long walks, purposely parking very far or getting somewhere really early so that I can walk for half an hour before I go to a class or something. like just stretching 1 to 2 times a day, 6 to 7 days a week. I'm not very flexible, so I'm trying to work on that. Like, yeah, like it just, but it came from my environment, aka when I was traveling, literally giving me no choice but to be more active, which then forced me to break a bad habit. Another example, right? Like I accidentally found a hack. I accidentally figured out exercise for myself. But here's the thing, and this all ties together. Everything I've said in this video ties together, funnily. But I wouldn't have found that strategy accidentally if I hadn't tried 50 other things first that I thought would work. I had to have been making the effort to finally stumble into the thing that worked for me. So for like, I tried so many things for exercise. I tried doing it first thing in the morning. That didn't work. I tried doing it. I tried running. I'm going to do running because running felt really good. I liked it, but it started to hurt my knees. So I couldn't do that anymore. I tried badminton. I was doing really consistent with badminton. Didn't work. It was getting really expensive, and it was evening times. That's when I work. It was costing too much money, both paying for badminton because I was a drop-in fee, you have to pay to drop in, and also it's costing too much because I couldn't take new students during those days. So that didn't work. I tried so many things that didn't work before finally I accidentally found something that did work. But I think doing all the things that didn't work, all the things I did that didn't work almost were like slowly 1%, 1%, 1%, 1%, 1%, 1%, moving me along and preparing me mentally till finally, when the Taiwan thing happened in France and I was walking every day and very active, when I came back, that was the final straw. And suddenly it was really natural for me to exercise and all of that. But if I hadn't tried the 50 things first that didn't work out, I believe that, maybe I'm wrong, but my belief is that when I went to Taiwan and France, the habit of being active wouldn't have stuck because I didn't put enough effort into it in the first place. It's like if you're trying to push a big boulder, when you first start pushing, it's not really moving. But as you keep pushing, you get some help to push, you do different things, you use a lever, you try different things to push it. And finally, the final strategy you use is what pushes the boulder over. So it's not that the final strategy was finally the best strategy. It's that the final strategy was what finally worked for you. And you give that final strategy all the credit when really everything you did leading up into that point deserves credit. Same for your language learning, by the way, as I'm totally going off the cuff and improvising, but it's so true. I'm realizing this now. I need to make a whole post on this. So often we have breakthroughs with language learning. Suddenly something happens, we try something, and suddenly something we struggled with for the longest time becomes easy. It finally sticks in our brain. We finally understand. It's not that and then what we think is, oh my God, that was the strategy. That was the methodology. That was the technique that works. And suddenly we tell all our friends, we talk about it on our Facebooks, we tell people this strategy works, this methodology works. Well, no, that was the final straw. That was the point. The boulder's already halfway down, and that was the final thing you tried. Now you gave it a kick, and the kick pushed the boulder off. But kicking the boulder in the first place would have done nothing. It wouldn't have actually worked, right? It wouldn't have worked. It's the amalgamation. It's the whole thing you did. It's everything you did leading up to the thing that worked that deserves credit for whatever, language success or whatever that you had. So very interesting stuff. I don't even know how we got on this, but I feel like there's some really cool stuff in there. I want to see some likes and comments or just give me some feedback. I think there's some really good gems in there. Andrew Ranger says, I'm fully behind you on finding a good routine for exercise. It's tough when life keeps changing. I think for me, routine has not been the thing. Routine has not been the unlock for me. The unlock for me was, number one, I tried for 3 years to figure it out, and it didn't stick. I'd be on and off. I tried for 3 years, didn't stick. I think that was the biggest thing, that I tried for so long. I put so much effort into it that finally I won and I beat my brain. I beat the habit. But second of all, I don't really have a consistent routine because my routine changes, my life changes, right? That was actually the big thing for me. I tried to have routines and it would work until life changed on me. And then the routine changed and I'd fall off the wagon. So routine is actually not what worked for me. What's worked for me is two things. I finally convinced myself that a day is successful if I exercise and I eat right. No, sorry. A day is successful if I eat right, I exercise, and I slept. That's it. And my mental health was in a good place. It's not successful if I make a lot of money. It's not like there's I keep it really basic. And so those become the first things I have to do. Those are the first priorities. If I get a choice between work or exercise, I exercise because I haven't done it yet. So that was a thing. And then just the physical environment around me, like going through that change of having no choice, physically having no choice but to walk, bike, and train. That was it for me. TS, what is your real name, TS? I always see your TS. I don't know what your name is. What do you use to send, what is this? What do you use to send voice audio work mentioned towards the beginning of this journal? I came in late. Thanks for the details. Excuse me. Instagram voice messages and WhatsApp, both of them. Skype as well a little bit. What I don't like about Skype is it deletes the audios after a while. So I'm not a fan of that, but I've used it a little bit. Instagram's pretty good, but Instagram can be slightly buggy. Not super buggy, but 5% of the time stuff doesn't play properly, but it works really well. I do use it. I think it's great. WhatsApp is really good as well. My go-tos are Instagram and WhatsApp. Those are my two go-tos for that. While we're on that topic, let's give one little piece of advice here, and then I gotta go. Ironically, I have to go do my exercise, so let's do one final little thing. What was I saying? Shoot, I forgot. No, I'm gonna remember it. The final thing was audio messages. Right, recording yourself talk and doing that on a regular basis is a really good way to improve your fluency. Like just taking your phone and being like, hola, ¿cómo estás? Hoy yo fui al supermercado y comí una pizza y bueno, fue un día aburrido y mañana voy a hacer lo que sea. And literally, I don't know why I chose Spanish of all things when I did that, but just taking your phone out and just talking about stuff, picking certain topics and talking about it is a really good strategy to improve your fluency. I highly, highly recommend that. It's there's something about that. There's something about just talking and recording yourself, and then there's something about that strategy that just works. Even if you're not sharing it and it's just for you personally, give it a go. Okay, I got to go exercise. I have to finish. I've got to do it in 30 minutes. I've got 30 minutes to get my exercise done. So I'm going to peace out. Thank you. We'll chat later. Bye for now. See you.